Welcome, friends. You are listening to the Mind Body Alchemy podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Miramontes. This is where intuition meets education in the realms of spirituality, fitness, mindset, and more, all to create lasting change. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. Thanks so much for being here. It is no secret that I don't like when people just say, I want to set this goal, and then they map out this plan in order to reach the goal, and they don't consider how you're going to get there has to also match up with how you are going to stay there. If you try to reach a goal and it feels really sticky and you feel like you're really struggling through in order to get there, then of course it's not going to be sustainable. So we're going to talk about habits, and I've talked about habits before, but we're going to talk about them again, and we're going to talk about how to change any habit with ease. And of course that's a little bit of a joke because habits are ridiculously difficult to change. Of course that is until you start looking at them a little bit differently and you know the steps that you need to take in order to begin to change these habits. And more importantly, as you change the habits, if you start mucking up the process, how to look at these steps and just pick up where you left off instead of feeling like you're off track and you failed and all of the nonsense that happens. The other thing that is essential that you need to do before you even get started is to manage your expectations. No more of this bullshit around habits taking 21 days to fix or whatever arbitrary timeline that anyone gives you. The time that it's going to take to change a habit is largely based on how far removed it is from your current habits and behaviors. It can go a little bit faster if someone is really close to where they want to go, if it's just a little bit of tweaking. If something really dramatic happens, it can go a little bit faster. If there's a really deep emotional reason that you need to change and it happens really quickly, then your why is so much stronger than your why not, that you change really rapidly. However, most of the time, our habits that need to be changed don't have this big, dramatic, life-altering circumstance to help us change quickly. So we need to be patient and understand that the more years we have under our belt practicing the habits that no longer serve us, the more time, energy, and attention it's going to take in order to change into something different or to replace that habit. So instead of saying, I'm going to do this quickly, I'm going to do it in 21 days, I'm going to do it in a few weeks, or whatever that newspaper article said you could do. Who even reads newspapers? Does somebody here read newspapers? Maybe it was a magazine, maybe it was a Facebook article, I don't know. Maybe I'm showing my age here. Regardless, I want you to give yourself a lot longer than 21 days. I want to encourage you to give yourself a year or maybe longer. The reason in my program that we take habits one at a time and we practice them for a really long time, in fact, it's a boring ass amount of time, it's because in order for a habit to stick, it needs to become something that you do a little bit more effortlessly. It needs to become more automatic. And so it takes a lot of mental energy to get you to do these things over and over and over again. And once that mental energy is no longer required, once the effort is reduced, that is when you start having it become a habit and not something that you just have to kind of grind through all the time and work really hard toward. So we do things for a really long time in order to make them really stupid boring so that you don't have to put forth a lot of mental energy to get the shit done. For some people, the same habit can take days, and for others, it can take years. It really just depends on how important it is for you to change it, how painful it is for you to stay the same, and how far removed it is from your current lifestyle. As I had said before, obstacles are a thing, and so if you have a lot of them to knock down, it's going to take a while. So now that we have all of that out of the way, let's talk about some things that you need to know in order to make a habit change a lot easier for yourself and some actionable steps that you can take right now. So let's dive in. Anything that you want to change is as simple as making it really attractive for yourself. I'm going to use the example of eating undistracted because this is a huge barrier for a lot of my clients. The narrative goes something like, if I feel lonely, then eating alone is miserable and it's kind of sad. And without the television to keep me company, that's kind of awful. It's the only time I have to be on my phone. I just need a break. It's the only way that I can entertain myself, and so on and so forth. But if you read between the lines, everything that comes up for people around this habit is that they're asking for a way to distract themselves from life. They're looking for a way to disengage from the unrealistic expectations, the stress, the thinking about work, thinking about the ways that they aren't measuring up, like maybe they don't have that relationship, or feeling like they should be done with school by now, or they should have kids and have already started their family. Maybe they're upset because they feel like they should have been further along in life. Their house should be paid off, or they wish that they lived in a larger home. All the stories that we tell ourselves about what we should be doing, or who we should be, or what we could be doing, or how we expect ourselves to be further along than we are, that shit is exhausting mentally. So of course you want to distract. The flip side of this is that you've created a habit of being distracted during your meals and actually probably during all of your breaks throughout the day. And so they aren't really breaks. You probably scroll your phone before you go to bed, and maybe when you're getting ready to eat, while you're cooking, all your downtime opportunities that you have during the day, you feel like you have to fill up every single second with something that is stimulating, something that takes your mind off of just being present. And that is just the nature of our current society, our environment, and what we all do. We're all kind of addicted to that dopamine hit that we get from opening up our phones and turning on our apps and scrolling through social media and engaging with other people's lives and their content. And one of the things that we don't realize is that we're spending all of this time in comparison and just consuming things that we're probably never going to put into practice, and it's not contributing to our lives in any way. And yeah, there are some really great pages out there. Hopefully you like mine. But if you don't have any personal boundaries around your time, it's exhausting and it's draining. And the result of all of this is that you're gaining weight every year because you're not taking the time to listen to your body while you're eating, and you're not hearing the body signals and the way that it's speaking to you. And it's a complete and total disembodiment. It's got to change. So how do we change it? And this is not just about distracted eating. This is about all those negative habits that you feel like need to change. Maybe you are really stressed, or you're not sleeping enough, or you want to start meditating, or whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. There are a few fundamental things that you need to keep in mind. Get your pen and paper out and write these things down. It will be helpful. The first thing we've got to be able to do is see it. We need to be able to look at the ways that we are stepping on our own toes and start figuring out a way to get off and start moving forward. If we can't see what we're doing, then we can't change it. If we are refusing to acknowledge that it's a problem, there's no way to turn it around. And on the flip side of that, we need to be able to see what life would be like if we did change it. The next thing we need to do is replace it. We need to replace the habit that is no longer serving us, find something else to do. We need to interrupt it, create a strong why, make it enjoyable and ritualistic, set up a successful environment, and then connect to the pain of not getting there. So in the example above, how can you make it a pleasurable routine that you look forward to instead of something you dread doing? If eating alone is boring, it's your responsibility to make it enjoyable. Instead of declaring that it's boring, which shuts down any solutions, change the complaint to a question. How can I enjoy this more? Are your bills scattered all over the table? That feels stressful. Are you eating out of Tupperware or on paper plates instead of actual dishes? Could you turn on some soft music? Can you date yourself at your meal? Remove the boring by setting up an environment for nourishing or relaxing or soothing. What are some of the things about your favorite restaurant that you could maybe recreate? Light some candles, mimic the music. Every change you make needs a few things to happen. So we talked about interrupting that habit. You have to interrupt the cue. Make it harder to scroll on your phone, for example, by deleting your social media apps and only putting them back on for an hour a day or whatever your personal time limit is. If you interrupt that automatic cue, a lot of my clients do really well to just put the social media icons on the last screen on their phone. So they have to swipe through several times, and that gives them an opportunity to kind of pause in the middle and go, oh, wait, maybe I don't want to make this decision. It's not so automated. And that's enough to interrupt that habit. Sometimes it's about putting things out of your reach or putting things in your reach, creating your own obstacles to things that are negative or removing obstacles to things that are positive can be really helpful. So get creative and say, how can I make this easier for me to do if it's something that is positive, or how can I make this a little bit more difficult so I have to stop and think before I start? The next thing is setting yourself up for success. An example of this would be to put your gym clothes out and make sure that they are comfortable to wear, because no one likes an ill-fitting bra and tight shoes. If it's a hobby, leave out your painting supplies in your view. Make an appointment with a friend or sign up for a class. And then make the experience really desirable. Just like we discussed above with the undistracted eating, apply it to everything else. Turn on some of your favorite music. Visualize how you'll feel when the project you've been delaying is finished. Find a like-minded community to engage with, and then just rock and roll. Take a small step forward toward your goal. Make that small step count every single day, and make sure you congratulate yourself for it. Make sure you appreciate yourself for it, that you acknowledge yourself and say, hey, I am doing great here. That way you're carving out a path for your brain to get rewarded by things that are more positive instead of things that are numbing you out and working to just serve as avoidance and false pleasure. And then connect to that feeling. Connect to the disappointment of not getting the task done. This is part of holding yourself accountable. And I'm not talking about guilt and shame here. I just want you to really feel what this is costing you to put off your workouts or your projects, or to put yourself on the back burner. Instead of beating yourself up and going down that shame spiral, I just want you to look at the big picture here and just say, okay, if I do this for 5 more years or 10 more years, what is the overall cost of me putting myself last? What is the overall cost of me not acknowledging that I am not carving out time for my self-care and my well-being? And really just imagine what that would look like a few years in the future. And are you okay with that? Because most likely you're not, which is why you're setting the same goals over and over again. You're trying the same diets over and over again. You're trying to create new projects. You buy new painting supplies. They go bad in the cupboard. Whatever unfinished projects are piling up, that is an emotional burden. So clear out all that clutter and all that junk and all the mental drama that comes with it, and start looking at what it's really costing you each and every day to open that drawer and see the paint supplies just hardening and not being used, or whatever it is. And on the other side of that, visualize how it's going to make you feel to be connected, to engage, to show up for yourself, to have your own back. What is that going to change in your life? What is that going to do for you? If you can remind yourself every single day by waking up and setting an intention and just saying, today I'm going to show up for myself by doing this or that, and I want to feel this way, and I know that these things are what is going to bring me closer to that feeling, that's going to remind you to have your own back. It's going to remind you to do the thing and to show up and be there for yourself. And as you connect more to that emotion and that feeling, then the rewards are higher, and it's going to help you to create that habit because your body and your brain start to crave that reward. It starts to crave that feeling that you have said is so important to you. It's like reprogramming your brain for a more positive outlook. And lastly, quit making it hard for yourself. Do less, one habit at a time. What is the smallest step you can take? How can you get those little daily wins? What other habits do you have in place that your new habit can be in proximity to? For example, if you already brush your teeth at 9, can you read for 10 minutes immediately after? So those habits are stacked together. What are some ways that you can just make it super, super simple, so easy, and eliminate some of your excuses? Because let's face it, life is already pretty challenging. We have a lot of distractions that we're dealing with. So it's really easy to just say, I will start this tomorrow. I will do this tomorrow. I'll figure it out tomorrow. I'm going to pencil it in. And then we reschedule on ourselves all the time. So the easier we can make it on ourselves, the better. Habit change can be really difficult, but if you can see what needs to be done, if you know the steps, then you're not fighting this big uphill climb. Instead, when it starts to get challenging, you can see the steps unfold and you can go back and go, okay, can I see it? Have I replaced it? Have I interrupted it? Do I need to interrupt it again? Do I have a connection to a strong why? And did I forget why I started? And is that why even still important to me? And if not, do I need a new one? Have I grown? Have I changed? Start asking yourself better questions. How can I make this more enjoyable? How can I make this a ritual? Something that I do automatically, just like I do some of my other boring ass habits. And what is the benefit? How can I set myself up for success here? And what's it going to cost me if I give up on myself right now? And what do I have to gain if I stick with it? Curiosity is the key to sticking to habit change. And in addition to curiosity, patience and time. You've got to allow yourself enough time. You've got to allow yourself to be messy, to do it imperfectly, to have hiccups along the way, and not quit on yourself, not beat yourself up, but instead just keep asking better questions. How can I make this easier, better, more available to me? That is all I have for you today. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please screenshot it, share it on social media, tag me. All my information is in the show notes. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your takeaways were and how I can support you as well. And if you could, rate and review the podcast. I would really appreciate it. It helps me out so much. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.